Hello, this is Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Welcome home.
Soar into tower. We are ready for takeoff.
Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hey, it's Amy from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey Clubbers, it's Scott from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey, it's Kathleen from DVC Clubhouse.
Welcome aboard. It's Phil from DVC Clubhouse.
And welcome back to another episode of the Debrief Podcast brought to you by DVC Clubhouse. This is Amy, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Scott, Kathleen, and Phil.
Hey, guys.
Hi, guys.
Welcome aboard, guys.
All right, so how's everyone doing after our first round of the clubbies?
Yeah, I think the first round went pretty well.
I enjoyed it. I'm ready for round two.
I can't believe I was willing to stay at Fort Wilderness.
I just listened to it today, and there was a lot of boat horn happening.
And there were some that I thought about putting the boat horn into, and I didn't because it was borderline, and there was still a lot of ferry horn.
Well, one of the members of Clubhouse actually posted early this morning tiebreakers for our two categories where we had a tie. And the first category where we had a tie was Best DVC Resort for Solo Travelers. And Scott and I had both picked Animal Kingdom Lodge, and Kathleen and Phil had both picked Boardwalk. And on the poll that she posted, Boardwalk has blown Animal Kingdom Lodge away. It was not even close. However, for the best resort for couples, Riviera was my choice and Scott's choice because we had every single choice the same. And Phil and Kathleen picked Grand Floridian. Now, last I checked, Riviera was ahead of Grand Floridian, but by a much, much smaller margin. That's pretty close. So
the only time Riviera should win, it would be Best Resort named Riviera.
Oh, you know what? I just realized what I did.
What?
So on the podcast, I voted for Riviera, but on the Facebook group, I voted for Grand Floridian.
Really? So it's not as close as I thought it was.
Well, let me change that.
I mean,
sorry.
I don't understand that, but
It's 11-9.
everybody has their favorites,
Yeah.
their reasoning why, and that's fine.
Okay.
Doesn't mean they're right, but they have their reasons.
Right.
all right, so why don't we get into our first category for this episode? And that is the best DVC resort for runDisney races.
All right, I got my notes ready
So this is the best resort to stay at
for
for
Run
a
Disney.
Run Disney race.
Right.
And to clarify, it's if you're running in the race, not if you're just happen to be there for a
Not
Run
for spectating.
Disney weekend. You're right, exactly. So if you are running a Run Disney race, where would you want to stay?
I got this.
Do you want to go first, or do you
I
want
feel
me
like
to?
I went first last time, but if we want to keep the same order, I have no problem. I put a lot of thought into these, which is not the norm for me.
Go ahead.
Well, I chose my nominee for the best clubby for a Run Disney race is Beach Club Resort, just because of the relaxing big pool that they have, the proximity to the actual race itself at Epcot. Also, I chose the fact that you can get a cabana the day of the race or even the day before if you want to, or after, to relax. So if you just want a nice relaxing day at a resort where you have some snacks and your own dedicated person that comes over and kind of waits on you. I know the pool can be a little bit busy with families and kids running around, but I feel like it's big enough and that's a private enough area where you could just kind of relax after a hard day. And it's also a great place to get a No Way Jose after you have burned off a ton of calories at a race. That's my nominee.
So we're kicking off this episode by Scott and I disagreeing for the first time,
Wow.
picking different ones. And it is really ironic what each of our choices are. Because I'm
She's
actually
going Floridian. She's going Floridian.
I'm going Grand Floridian. And, you know, I've done several runDisney races, and I've either stayed at Boardwalk Beach Club, or like one time it was just Saratoga Springs, but it was because it was the only thing I could get. And I've always said it's better to stay at Crescent Lake because it's so close to Epcot. When you're done with the race, you can just, you know, go back to your resort. And I have never, when I have finished a half marathon or even the 10K, I have never walked back through the park to get to my resort, because the only thing I want to do at that point is sit down. My legs are done. I don't want to have to walk all the way through the park, dealing with people when I'm hot, tired, and just wanting to relax. And so what I've learned in the past, I don't know, year or two, is that if you stay at Grand Floridian, you run a half marathon, you can take the monorail from the Grand Floridian to Epcot. So you don't even have to deal with the bus. Also, the Grand Floridian is not every single resort sells those pre-race snack boxes. The Grand Floridian is one of them that does. And they also have cabanas. So I'm with you with the cabana thing, Scott, because that's actually what I did at Beach Club once before a race, was, as you guys joined me there, rented a cabana for the day. But you can do that at Grand Floridian. And I always really enjoy a post-celebration dinner at California Grill. And I'm much closer to California Grill if I'm staying at Grand Floridian. Plus, they do have, the courtyard pool is really great. If I was staying in a resort studio, I'd be able to take the monorail back to my resort and have a pretty close walk from the monorail, or even if I just took the bus from the front of the resort back to the resort studio. So it would be minimizing my walking time once I got back to the resort. So Grand Floridian, you know, I thought about this, and initially I was like, it's either Beach Club or Boardwalk. And then I was like, don't kid yourself, Amy. You've literally never once walked back through Epcot. You've always gotten on a bus. So I saved nothing by staying at Beach Club or Boardwalk. So Grand Floridian it is.
So here's the problem with the Crescent Lake resorts. It seems like a great idea after the race because you're ending in Epcot, except you're ending halfway to Magic Kingdom by the time you get through that finish line and go back to the marshalling area. It is a mile-long walk from the buses all the way to the corrals. Then when you're done, you've got to walk back through that parking lot to go over to where the buses are. You're not actually ending inside of Epcot. You're ending on the far corner of the furthest parking lot that you could possibly imagine from where you are. So it doesn't do you any good to stay at Crescent Lake. I like the idea of Beach Club because I like the access to the food and I like the access to the sundae. I don't like Stormalong Bay. I just don't think it's that relaxing for after a race. I love it with the family. But if I just want to relax after a 5, a 10, a half, or whatever it is, that's just not my pool. I'm with Amy. I'm going over to Seven Seas, and I was torn. Before I tell you where I decided, I'll give you an idea of why. To me, Poly is where it's at because of the Oasis pool. It's quiet. It's relaxing. There's not a ton of kids around. You've got the cabana there. You've got great poolside service. But it's a little wishy-washy as far as what your access to real sit-down dining is. Grand Floridian has great quick service. It's got a great salad bar, as you've pointed out. It's got access to hot tubs. It's got access to pools. The bottom line for me is I want to be able to relax, and this is a 50-50 shot for me. And I know that once I sit down in that chair by the pool after a race, I don't want to go anywhere later that night. I don't want to take the monorail over to get food. I don't want to walk to get food. So part of me says go to Poly because I love it. But in the end, for the first time, Amy and I are on the same page. I'm going over to Grand Floridian specifically because at the end of the night, especially if I'm doing back-to-back-to-back races where I've got to be in bed at 9 p.m. to get back up at 3:30 a.m., I don't want to be resort hopping, even if it's between Poly and Grand Floridian. I want to sit in the hot tub. I want to enjoy the pool. I want to relax. I want access to food. And that night, I want to go to Citrico's or the Lounge or Narcoossee's and walk the 200 yards back to my room so I can prep for the next race the next morning. So I'm going to Floridian.
So when I was originally thinking about this earlier, my initial reaction was Boardwalk. But then I changed it to Beach Club because of the cabanas, mainly just because of the cabanas. I really don't, the pool doesn't do anything for me for race day, but. And then also because if you have people with you and they want to watch you, they could stand right on that sidewalk at Beach Club or Boardwalk and watch you when you go through the, 10K or whatnot. But I like to be in that Epcot area, the 2 races that I've done. So I think I'm going to go with Beach Club.
So we've got a tie here, folks.
Another split decision, and this time it's Amy and I versus Scott and Kathleen versus the last episode where Kathleen and I were constantly going head-to-head with you and Scott.
And I never thought there would be a time where I would pick Grand Floridian and Scott would pick Beach Club.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about Grand Floridian, but I mean, that's a really good point, though, about
they do have
you don't
cabanas.
really walk back to your resort after you just did a half. But I guess we'll have to let the Facebook clubbers decide this one, too.
Yeah.
The one thing that I will give the Crescent Lake Resorts is if you do want to go to the parks after a race, Epcot tends to be the place we go to because you can take it easier around World Showcase. But if I stay at Floridian, I can easily enough grab a monorail and save the steps. I don't want to go into Magic Kingdom after a race. It's just too much going on there.
I thought it was a lock after, Beach Club is Amy's home resort. And you can easily go over to Trattoria for a 9:30 heavy dinner just so you could get up at 1 o'clock in the morning to be back over to Epcot.
It's a little aggressive, Scott. You're being a little aggressive.
That's what I've heard. That is what I've heard.
True story.
Rings a bell. All right, so let's move on to our next category. And this is going to be a tough one for me. It's the best resort for dining. So I feel like it comes down to one of 3 resorts that are what people really are always kind of torn between. So let's have it, guys. What do you think?
I mean, I don't think there's any question that it's Grand Floridian. I really don't. You have this speech memorized, so go ahead.
5 table service restaurants. The only quick service that I can think of that has an actual build your own salad station. Amazing options as far as lounges and the food at the lounges. The truffle fries over at Enchanted Rose are delicious. But it's the fact that there's 5 restaurants, but there's a variety of restaurants too. You have your very high-level Michelin star Victoria and Albert's, and then you have 2 that are like special occasion restaurants. You have like a mid-level everyday Grand Floridian cafe. You also have a buffet if you want to do something with the kids, a family meal for characters. So you have like a little bit of everything at that resort. I don't know that there's one other DVC resort that has 5 table service restaurants. This one was no contest for me. 2 votes for Grand Floridian.
All right, Amy, you in or am I?
What'd you say?
I said, are you in or am I?
You can go.
So I wonder if I've got the same 3 that you do in mind. So the 3 that would occur to me are obviously Grand Floridian, Animal Kingdom, and then it's a toss-up between the Crescent Lake resorts because you've got access to so much around you. Am I right?
My 3rd was actually Saratoga Springs because of the proximity to Disney Springs.
Okay, fair. I didn't think about that. So if you go to Animal Kingdom, the upside is you've got Jiko, you've got Boma, you've got Sanaa, all fantastic, but I think their quick serve leaves a little to be desired for overall dining, and you are limited just to that resort. So my mind went to Animal Kingdom, but then I wiped it off. Then you come down to your Crescent Lake resorts. Now you've got everything at Beach Club and Yacht Club. You've got everything at Boardwalk, and you've got everything at Swan and Dolphin. So overall dining, you've got access to all of them. Then you've got Floridian, which, as Scott has pointed out, has everything you could possibly ask for. If we said best location for dining, I would give it to the Crescent Lake Resorts, but just because I needed a tiebreaker, best resort, period, for dining, it's 3 votes, Grand Floridian.
Make it 4.
Unanimous across the board, Grand
I
Flo.
thought you were going with Animal Kingdom on this one.
No, you know what? I do love it, and I think that if we were judging it on unique dining concepts, and maybe if you were, again, like I picked Animal Kingdom Lodge for solo because I feel like all of the restaurants, even Boma, just kind of have like a more grown-up feel to me. Like there's something that's just, it feels more adult. So if I was looking at like adult-only dining, or if I was looking at, solo trip dining, maybe I would pick Animal Kingdom Lodge because I love those restaurants. But, Scott said it. Grand Floridian, if you went there, no matter who you went with, if you went with a family, if you went as a couple, if you went by yourself, if you went, on a trip with friends, there is something, all different types of restaurants for all different styles of dining. So I do think that Grand Floridian as a resort itself is great, but then it also has, if we're talking about areas, it also has the monorail, which brings you, to California Grill. Sorry.
She just can't help herself.
She cannot help herself.
She just
It's
naturally
like a nervous
goes there.
tick. It's like this strange Tourette's that only says California Grill.
It really
California
was.
Grill.
That time it was. I meant to say contemporary, but California Grill came out of my mouth. So yeah. So it, the monorail where you can go to contemporary, or if you wanted to go to Magic Kingdom for some weird reason to dine, you've just got a lot there. But you could literally go to Grand Floridian for like a week and eat at a different place every day.
Right.
Agreed.
Yep.
I think this is our first unanimous decision.
I think you're right. That was a pretty
Warranted.
easy one, though. I felt like that was a pretty easy one.
Though I have to wonder if the next one is going to go in the same direction. I'm
Which
very
one is
curious to
that?
see where you guys. Relaxation. Best resort for relaxation.
I got mine.
Go ahead.
I'm going with Old Key West.
Nope.
Every time I go there, which I don't go often, but when we do go, immediately I feel relaxed. Just everything is slow, like just the music is nice and you just feel relaxed. It's like your body's like there's no more tension as soon as you're there. Just like that music just takes it all away. And I could sit there and people watch all day.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
I think it would be very relaxing. I don't know if I'm ever going to stay there again other than with Amy or somebody else, but
I would never go there, but if I had to relax, I suppose.
no, because I can't get my husband there, but the only time I'm going to stay there is probably when Amy's there again.
Well, funny you should mention that, because if you look at my notes for relaxation, what resort did I pick?
I don't know. Tell everybody.
Well, I chose Old Key West.
Wow.
I really did. I just, people talk about it being away from the hustle and bustle of Disney. Those 2 bedrooms are where it's at with the beautiful view. And we had a kind of a water view, like the little pond that was in the back there with the fairway from the golf course, sitting on that balcony, drinking a coffee or whatever you prefer. That's just basically what I think of when I think of relaxation. It is away from anything. If you want to unwind and just play a round of golf, Gurgling Suitcase is, that kick back, laid back vibe where, it may not be very big, but you're not dealing with a lot of people. So I had to pick that. It was really the first one that came to mind. Plus, everybody that stays there is usually in bed by 7 o'clock. So it's
a very good point.
I'm
So
proud
Phil,
of you.
I'm curious to know, Phil, if you and I are going to pick the same resort.
Okay, well, here goes. So I'll be perfectly frank with you. When I thought relaxation, like Scott, the first thing that came to my mind was Old Key West, without a doubt. It's laid back. It's an easygoing vibe. People are not rushing to the buses first thing in the morning. There's not that giant line. Those hammocks hidden away behind the pool are absolutely awesome. The pool, the main pool, is laid back. Olivia's is a super laid back, decent meal. But I'll tell you what turned me is that darn treehouse we stayed in at Saratoga. Being able to just go to that treehouse, have all that space, relax, wander down to the bus stop. I loved that little walk we took over to the boats to go to Disney Springs. You've got a huge gym. You've got a giant feature pool that you want to go over to. It's just woodsy enough to feel like you're detached from everything, but still close enough to Disney Springs to make it work. I also have to give an honorable mention to Boulder Ridge. I think it's hugely relaxing, but it is close enough to the parks that you do have that little extra distraction there. So if I were just going to relax, it would be Saratoga, specifically a treehouse.
And my choice is Boulder Ridge. I think Boulder Ridge, for me personally, because it's on Bay Lake, the mornings, to me, there is nothing more relaxing on all of Disney property than getting my coffee and sitting down by Geyser Point overlooking Bay Lake. It is the most relaxing spot in all of Walt Disney World, in my opinion. I also think that the Boulder Ridge pool is super relaxing. It's never that crowded. It's got those little kind of cabanas that aren't really cabanas, that have the chairs and the couches that you can relax in. I think that it being at Wilderness Lodge and having that lobby, whereas the lobby can get a little bit crowded, but for the most part, in the middle of the day, you can go and sit in a rocking chair in front of the fireplace, or at the holidays, you can sit in one of those oversized like leather chairs that kind of recline a little bit looking up at the tree. You've got Territory Lounge, which is like a really kind of subdued vibe in there. Geyser Point is great. It's like such a relaxing spot overlooking Bay Lake. And then the fact that Boulder Ridge, I was kind of torn between picking Copper Creek or Boulder Ridge, because
Boulder Ridge all day over Copper Creek.
The reason why I would pick Copper Creek is because that morning in the cabin after our first clubhouse weekend, when Kathleen and I were sitting on that enclosed porch area, just watching the boats go by, I mean, that was incredible. And
but the cabin specifically is what you're saying, not the main building.
Specifically, not the main building, but because then you do have the main building. The rooms in the main building, I think they tend to be a little bit loud. I don't know, Boulder Ridge, it's set apart, it's quiet, it has its own little lobby, its own little vibe going on over there. Boulder Ridge gets my vote.
Okay, I've got a question here because we haven't done this before. So Boulder Ridge was a super close second for me.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I'm only voting for the treehouse. I'm not voting for Saratoga overall because I don't think Saratoga itself is relaxing. Can I change my vote?
I think so. I think once you hear the arguments of other people, yeah, you can change your vote.
I'm siding with Amy. I love Boulder Ridge. Specifically, I love the water view, the mornings and the evenings.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, there is just something about that walking path from the main building down to Boulder Ridge, covered up at night. You've got all that legendary Western epic music playing overhead. Everything's quiet out over the lake. I was specifically voting for the treehouse, but when Amy said she'd take Copper Creek for the cabin, but Boulder Ridge for the resort, that's what flipped the switch with me, because I'm not taking Saratoga for the resort. I'm taking Saratoga for the cabin. So if I have to vote for a resort, I'm moving my vote over to Boulder Ridge.
Yeah, I could see that. I think I might change mine too. I'm going to change it to Lakeside Lodge.
You can stay in a little tent or a trailer there right now.
So does that put us at 2-2 again?
That is. So we're going to have to do another tiebreaker. And It's Phil and I.
You know, I don't think
This is crazy.
I don't think so. I'm gonna have to change my vote now because I totally forgot about the mornings at Wilderness Lodge that I absolutely love sitting out by the water. So I have to change my vote.
And so are you going with Boulder Ridge?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I feel like something's wrong. I'm the only one that picked.
I think we just did
Old
it on
Key
purpose
West.
to make you stay at Old Key West by yourself.
Well, you know what I think? I think that the fact that we stayed at Old Key West so recently and our room was in such a great location, I think that really did a lot to like kind of sway Scott.
I agree.
I just wanted Old Key West to win a clubby. I don't think that's
Best
going to happen.
retirement community on property.
With the rest of the categories that we have, I just don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I did. One of my categories got eliminated, was voted to be eliminated, but I think it could have been a contender for the one that was eliminated. But
Was that in-room dining?
yeah,
Okay, I could see where you're going with that.
yeah, because I think for in-room dining, I think that it could be a contender because it has the largest it has a pretty large dining comfortable table that you could sit at inside, or you could also, it's I think the only resort really that has a dining table outside on the balcony. They're all just kind of like chairs and like little end tables. And it has like a nice kind of open kitchen
Technically,
concept,
that's
so-
out of room dining, so that doesn't count.
Well, you know what I mean. If you were to prepare a meal in your room, and
So I took that completely wrong. When you said in-room dining, I thought you were talking about room service. I didn't think you were talking about cooking there.
yeah, no, that's what I meant. Like if you were to actually decide that you were going to have a night where you were going to cook in your room,
Mm-hmm.
where which resort would you want to stay at for that?
I could see how Old Key West would definitely be a contender with that.
I never
If
thought of
points
it like
were a
that.
consideration, if points aren't a consideration, there's some grand villas out there that have these immense, beautiful dining rooms and tables.
Yeah, well, for the Grand Villas, I mean, I feel like we'd have to remove the Grand Villas from consideration because they're all amazing. And I mean, Tina from the Facebook group, they dine in all the time. They always stay in a Grand Villa at Grand Floridian, and they eat in all the time, and that looks amazing. But I think if we were just talking about points affordable options, the ones that came to mind for me were Old Key West and the Cabins of Fort Wilderness, because not only do you have the kitchen, but then you also have the grill right outside your room. So if you wanted to
Out of room
Grill.
dining, disqualification. I'm sorry.
That's it. You're taking it very, very literally. I mean, you know what I mean. If you were to buy groceries and prepare it at the unit where you're staying, whether it's right out on the balcony or inside.
Well, if that's where we're going, then fine. Then I'm picking Boardwalk because I'm just going to set up a folding table on the village green and eat out there since it's technically at the resort.
No, that doesn't count.
Why? It's out of room dining.
Because that's communal space. It has to be your own private space.
All right. Do you feel better? You got that out. You got your in-room dining discussed.
Well, I wanted to give Old Key West a chance to win something. I felt
Old
bad
Key
for
West
Old
a
Key
chance
West.
to shine.
Yes.
Yeah. Old Key West won that award that, they technically won, but it's one of those ones that doesn't get televised.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. We announced this one at noon today
Right.
when no one was listening. All right, so getting back to the televised awards, the next category is Best DVC Resort for Nightlife.
So easy.
This is
All right, go for it.
This is a sore subject for me, guys.
So easy. It was Boardwalk. It's so Boardwalk. You can't argue against Boardwalk. But they decided to close Jelly Rolls. I'm sorry. Look at Amy. Amy is defeated.
It was a shoe-in right up until they closed that monster of a people eater attraction, Jelly Rolls. It just what were they thinking?
But my nominee would have actually rivaled Boardwalk even if Jelly Rolls was still going to be open. I'm picking Saratoga. All day. Proximity to Disney Springs and all of the nightlife that they have, the concerts, the music, everything that's going on at night, all the different lounges and places that you can go to. And my number one point for this place is the fact that it is a quick boat ride up the Sassagoula River to go to my beloved Port Orleans, Riverside to go see Yeehaw Bob, and Port Orleans French Quarter to go over to Scat Cats.
Wait a minute. The last 2 times you've been up there, there has been no Bob, so I'm not sure that
I
really is
know.
a factor.
He has a replacement. We have 10-second Tom,
We
and
drove 10-second Tom.
And I don't know what the last guy's name was.
somebody called him 5-Minute Mike or something. I don't know what it was.
All right. I'll just pile in here because we're not keeping any order. I'm with Scott. 2 words, live music, Saratoga. I'm out.
Amy?
I mean,
She refuses to talk.
it was hands down for me, Boardwalk. Hands down, because you had nighttime entertainment on the Boardwalk that was great for kids. Then you have Abracadabra, which is fun. Bellevue Lounge is open until midnight, which many of the lounges at some of the other resorts, and even Disney Springs isn't even open that late. Like, they last call it, like, they close at 11. And then Jelly Rolls was open until 1:45. So you had different types of nighttime entertainment. Please, when ESPN was there, it was like everything. That was the nightlife resort, because it was right there at your resort. People would like leave their like 10-year-olds in the room and like go down to the boardwalk and be like, run back up and check on their kids because it was so close. But now, what do we have?
Saratoga.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick Saratoga though, because I don't think because Disney Springs at night can be so crowded that it's unpleasant to be there. So many times I've been there at nighttime and I'm just like, ugh, it's so crowded, get me out of here.
I'm 1,000% with you, because we know that is the one thing that drives me nuts about Disney Springs is the crowds. But where else can you find any kind of food, lounges galore, live music, ice cream, snacks, you name it, it's all right there. And I'm not a Disney Springs person by any stretch of the imagination, but as far as nightlife goes, I feel like they've got it all except for Jelly Rolls.
What, Saratoga? Your vote is Saratoga?
Saratoga, just for Disney Springs. And I'm not a Disney Springs person.
I'm actually deciding I'm sticking with Boardwalk, and I'll tell you why. Because number one, I already said it. I do think that there's stuff to do at nighttime at the resort that is family friendly for, a good part of the evening. But you can walk over and do karaoke at the Swan. And so that's open a little bit later. You do have 2 ice cream places. You have mini golf, which often people will do at evening. And you still have Abracadabra and Bellevue Lounge, which are 2 like solid lounge options. Plus you've got whatever is over at, you've got Finn's at the Dolphin. You've got Rosa. Like, you've got a bunch of things, a bunch of really good bars. And really the bars at, I think, the Swan and the Dolphin at night are much more lively than some of the lounges at Disney Resort. So I'm still sticking with Boardwalk. And plus, if we're talking about nightlife, you do still have Epcot open until like, the fireworks are done at 9:30. So you do have like an element of being able to stay at Epcot where you can, have drinks and have snacks and, have dinner or, whatever. And then just walk out of International Gateway right back to your resort where you can then stumble upon, all of the great nighttime entertainment that's there, get ice cream, and do all the other things that I mentioned. So I'm sticking with Boardwalk. I am devastated about Jelly Rolls, but I do still think that Boardwalk is like has a really fun nighttime vibe and is it can get crowded, but way less crowded than Disney Springs, which I just can't deal with the crowds.
How many tiebreakers does that make it today? Just one?
No, we've had more than one already.
Tonight?
I'm pretty sure.
No,
well, I don't know.
No, we
No,
had
you
a
guys
tie
changed.
and then we switched votes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only tiebreaker was for the Run Disney races, right?
Okay.
Because are you all saying Saratoga for nightlife?
Originally, I was going to go with Saratoga, but after hearing you talk, Amy, I think I'm changing it to Boardwalk. Plus, you have the Surrey bikes that night, too.
I think Boardwalk is awesome, but I think when I think nightlife, to me, it just comes down to variety of options. The super late doesn't really factor into anything I do just because we're usually there with the kids. And I just think they've got more options to play around and actually occupy their time.
I
at
think both are
Disney
good
Springs,
options.
but I think if I were maybe thinking along more of an adult vibe, I don't know, I might still go with Disney Springs. And again, that's coming from a guy who doesn't love Disney Springs. I just think there's more variety there.
Well, I guess that's two.
My kids do not enjoy being at Disney Springs. They like to go to to have a meal and leave. There's nothing there that's occupying their time more than just having a meal. But they would hang out on the boardwalk and watch the entertainment and do the stuff around the boardwalk. So I even think for teenagers or tweens, I think boardwalk is more appealing than Disney Springs.
Yeah, my kids like the idea of Disney Springs, not the actual visit. They complain the second they're there, but they really like the idea of Disney Springs.
If I gave my kids my credit card at Disney Springs, they would be thrilled. Then they would love it. But and if Pleasure Island was still open, I would pick Saratoga Springs. But alas, Disney takes
1,000%.
Disney takes away everything fun and leaves us gutted. Rip the Adventurers Club.
I guess that's two categories now.
So you're
last time.
picking
I'm picking
Boardwalk?
Boardwalk.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So I feel like this one might be a tough one here.
Oh, this one is so difficult because it really comes down to which parks you like best.
Best resort for theme park goers.
My vote. You want me to go or you want to go?
No, you go ahead.
Boardwalk.
Mm.
Walk to two parks.
Okay. I agree. I'll jump in. I agree. And the only thing that I wrote down was if you took somebody brand new to Disney that knew nothing about the resorts, they were brand new, and you asked them, do you want to stay at a resort where you can walk to one park or stay at a resort where you can walk to two parks? I believe they would pick the resort where you can walk to two parks every single time. And to me, that was either Boardwalk or Beach Club. And I chose Boardwalk just because I tend to gravitate more towards that area over there. I like that resort just a little bit better. I like the nostalgia feel of Boardwalk. But yeah, I mean, if it's theme park goers that we are kind of gearing this towards, there's two theme parks that you can walk to, and that is a huge advantage over any other resort.
What do you think,
Amy's
Phil?
looking at me expectantly. So as I said, I really figured I knew which way this one was going, and it has so far. It really comes down to what parks you love. And I'm just not a Hollywood Studios person. I'm not. I like Hollywood Studios at night. I think it's beautiful. I don't love it during the day. To me, it's a park I get into. We hit the highlights that the kids want to do, and we get out of there. We go back over at night to wander around and kind of enjoy it. Maybe as my kids get a little older and things change over there, that might change a little bit. But for me, I've got to go with Polynesian. You've got access into Magic Kingdom via the walking path, the monorail, or one of the boats. You can walk over the TTC. You can take the ferry boat. You can take the monorail from there. You can take a monorail from the TTC over to Epcot, rest your feet. It really does give you the view of the park that the others don't. And even though we are theme park heavy people, we don't always want to be over there at night to see the fireworks. From Polynesian, we can see the fireworks. We can sit in the pool with the Dole Whip and enjoy it. We can see it from the balcony. We can see it from the beach. And frankly, if I told my kids, you can go to a resort where you can walk to two parks, or you can go to a resort where you can take a monorail, you can walk, you can take a boat, or you can take the monorail over to Epcot, they're picking those modes of transportation all day long because they think the transportation, especially the monorail, is an attraction in and of itself. They always love a chance to get on the monorail. So for me, for theme park access and being able to see the parks and experience the parks and go to the parks that I really love, which are Magic Kingdom and Epcot, I've got to go with Polynesian.
So for this one, I'm going to go, and I think this is going to surprise everybody, but I'm going with Bay Lake Tower for this one because I think I think that like hardcore theme park goers, and kind of to Scott's point about like first time, like if you're a first timer, you are like all about going to the Magic Kingdom and like go and probably Epcot, like riding the monorail. I think that there is something just about staying at Bay Lake, staying at the Contemporary that just feels so Disney. You know, it's you feel like you're at Disney World. It's so iconic. Being able to either walk to Magic Kingdom or take the monorail there, being able to take the monorail to the TTC and transfer to Epcot, being able to go up to the top of the World Lounge and watch the fireworks and have that whole bird's eye view of the just it's so cool when you can see the monorail going around Seven Seas Lagoon, where when you can see everything, you can see Tomorrowland, you can see Cinderella's castle. It just feels, and I think that I might also be, this is definitely being informed by my own nostalgia, because the first time I ever went to Disney, I stayed at the Contemporary, and there was something about it that was just felt so, it was just so cool. And I think that the Contemporary, you know, we've talked about how the Contemporary kind of like, what is its theming? It's kind of like this weird, it wants to be retro, it wants to be IP, like what is it? I do think that it's the one resort that actually kind of celebrates the theme parks. That, you know, you'll see artwork that is that reflects the of like the different aspects of the park, and it's just so iconic. So I think that's my vote. Is if I was suggesting to somebody who just was like hardcore wanted to do the parks, especially because Magic Kingdom is one that people go to repeatedly because it has the most rides, I think it's Bay Lake Tower.
So we have 2 Boardwalk, 1 Poly, 1 Bay Lake. Is that right?
Yep.
Boardwalk was definitely my number 2, because I do like, for all the reasons why you said, the fact that you can walk to two parks. I feel like because you can't really see the parks, that was a
That's
consideration
what swayed me for
me.
Poly, was not being able to see it, because Boardwalk's easily my number 2, because I love that walk in and out of Epcot. I absolutely do. I just can't give Hollywood Studios any credence because it's just not my park.
And I did think about Poly because you can see Cinderella's castle, and now with the Island Tower, you have a nice view of the fireworks, but there's like really no theme park view like the Bay Lake theme park view. Like you're practically in Tomorrowland. And that nighttime view, seeing the Astro Orbiter and seeing Space Mountain, then seeing the castle, like it's just like you feel like you are at Disney World when you are at Bay Lake Tower.
This is the one of them that it's a good thing the West Coast was not in play, because Grand Cal wins this all day long.
Right. For sure.
All right. Well, that's all the ones we had for this part 2 of our Clubby Awards. Any last thoughts, guys?
Did we have any category where we all 4 picked a different resort?
I don't think we did.
I don't think so.
At the least, we had 2 people.
No, because
picking
Scott,
one.
on the last episode, you and I agreed on every single one.
Right, but we never had one single category where we all 4 went into a different direction.
No.
I have a category that we could just throw out within 30 seconds real quick, don't even think about it. Resort with the best view. And I don't care what you're looking at, best view. I bet we all 4 go in a different direction.
I'm torn. Again, it's Crescent Lake or Seven Seas Lagoon. I got to think about that one, because, okay, so here's the thing. Okay, the view out across Bay Lake from either Bay Lake Tower in the morning or Boulder Ridge in the morning is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
The view from either Poly or Contemporary across to Magic Kingdom is excellent. And the view from Boardwalk looking across at Beach Club Yacht Club is amazing. That's a hard question.
Yeah, I feel like we would all 4 have like a different answer on this.
Do you have?
My first thought was the Tower Studios at Riviera. I thought if you get the right room, you're looking at nighttime. You're looking at Magic Kingdom fireworks. You're looking at Epcot, and you can see Fantasmic.
Who are you? You're picking Old Key West, Riviera.
Wait, did you say a Tower Studio?
Yeah.
No, that does not get my vote at all. You're looking at the road and you're seeing trucks drive by.
That was going to be my argument. You're talking about, and it's the reason that I moved away from Saratoga. I'm looking at a very specific room type within a resort to stay at the treehouse. The resort with the best view simply can't be Riviera. There are a few select rooms that have amazing views, but the views from Riviera are the road, Caribbean beach, or a dumpster unless you get the few select views that give you the panorama you're talking about. The resort itself doesn't have great views, just that room
I
does.
think if you go up to Topolino's at the terrace up there, I think you're getting a great view. I think you're looking at all of the theme parks. I think you could see the fireworks. I think you have a Skyliner view. I would say that's probably one of the best views out of any resort that you could possibly get.
Yeah, I've just got to go with the grand total of views from a resort, I guess is how I'm looking at it. Because, I mean, you could argue that is there a better view than a Savannah view at Animal Kingdom where you can watch the animals?
I was thinking
think
about
that was
that
going to
too.
be my choice, Animal Kingdom.
I think views are, number one, so subjective for what you want, which is why I can't decide between what kind of view I'm looking for. And there are resorts that have some amazing views, but I think that the bulk of Riviera is not an incredible view, which is why I just can't go with that as an overall resort.
The preferred studios.
So wait, Phil, did you give your choice?
I don't think I can. I am so ridiculously torn on this because the views are all, they spark different feelings for each view that I mentioned. The view across to Yacht and Beach Club across Crescent Lake is beautiful, especially with the right lighting. The view from any, well, not any, yeah, I'd say any of the Seven Seas Lagoon resorts looking across are beautiful. The view from either Bay Lake Tower or Boulder Ridge is incredible in the morning looking across Bay Lake. I don't know how I choose between. That's like asking me to choose between my children. It can't be done.
It comes down to two for me. And, as I'm just going to say, as cool as I think that it is to have a savanna, that's not my favorite view. Often there's no animals out there and it's just dirt.
And when there
I'm
are
looking at
animals,
dirt.
typically they're boring animals. Like I can only look at so many wildebeest before I get bored.
Uh, but I think that if you're looking in terms of which resort, regardless of category that you pick, is going to give you a status, like a view that you're pretty happy with, I think it's either Bay Lake or Boardwalk. Because, Bay Lake, you're either looking at a theme park view that, yes, you can see some parking lot, but if you are a theme park person and you want to see the park, that's, for all the reasons why I said the theme park goer. But the Bay Lake, if you do a lake view, it's absolutely gorgeous. And the standard views, yeah, there are going to be some standard views that are only going to be parking lot, but for the most part, your standard views are also just going to be looking at, like, they're kind of like a resort view.
Mhm.
Same thing with Boardwalk. Boardwalk, you either are going to have a great view of the boardwalk across Crescent Lake. You're going to have a view of the Village Green, which is a great view. You're going to have a view of Luna Park, which is a great view with the water in the background that goes down to Hollywood Studios. Or you're going to have a view down of the other leisure pool. And those standard view rooms, you're basically looking at trees and grass in like the front of the resort. And if
That's what I was going to say. The standard view there is just the Porte Cochere.
Yeah, which is great because it has boardwalk in big bright letters. Like it's fun. So like, I mean, honestly, I think that I've talked myself into boardwalk just because I think that there are many fewer rooms at boardwalk that are standard that would be really terrible. I think that at Bay Lake you could get some really terrible standard view rooms. So I'm going with boardwalk.
Amy talked me into Boardwalk too, specifically because I just said it needs to be the preponderance of the rooms that have an excellent view, not the best view from one single room in one resort, but the resort that I would least worry about any view would be Boardwalk.
She talked me into it.
Right.
I mean, you're right. No matter what room category you get at Boardwalk, they're all a good view.
Yeah, hell with it. I'm going with Boardwalk.
And there's your unanimous again.
I have stayed at Boardwalk more than I have stayed at any other resort, and I cannot think of a time that I walked to my balcony, like opened the drapes, and was like, "Oh man, are you kidding me?" Because even the standard view rooms are are nice. So
Hey, I've said, in my opinion, the standard view rooms at Boardwalk are the best value on property, period, hands down, end of sentence.
100%. And I am also aware that I'm probably going to have people come at me when I said that Animal Kingdom Lodge is just looking at dirt. So sorry, y'all. But
You're not wrong. I mean, how many times can I stand on that balcony and say, what's new? No, what's new with you?
It's still
it gets
nice
boring.
to look at.
It's nice, but unless you've got a giraffe eating out of your hand, like in the commercial, I'll be honest, we've done it for the kids. But I'm like, oh, look, yeah, there's some more wildebeest. Oh, I think that's a zebra way off in the distance. Woo.
You know what Animal Kingdom Lodge is kind of like for me? It's kind of like when I go on a Disney cruise. I've done the veranda and it's nice, but the reality of how much time I spend on my veranda looking at the water that doesn't change, it's not much. And so I can do an inside stateroom and then go up on the deck and look at the animal. There's no animals on a cruise, guys. I made a mistake. I meant
well,
water.
That's not true. There's plenty of fish in the sea, Amy.
But they're not on deck. There's something has gone terribly wrong if there are fish on deck. But it's just, for me, like every single time I've stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge, other than and these weren't even my points, they were yours. I feel like the only points that I'd be willing to spend for Savannah View would be in a Grand Villa. Otherwise, give me a standard view. And if I want to go look at the animals, there are savannas everywhere on property where I can go look at the animals.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, I think that nicely wraps it up. You guys ready to call it an episode?
Wait, I just want to know, do you guys have an opinion on if you were to cook in a DVC resort, where you'd want to stay?
I think Old Key West is definitely a good option. I mean, the rooms are huge.
I don't go on vacation to cook in my room for dinner. I'll make breakfast, maybe lunch. That's about it.
I like the idea of Saratoga, or like at the treehouse with the grill, or the cabins at Fort Wilderness. I like that.
I do like the cabin. Yeah, that's probably between Old Key West and the cabins for me.
Yeah, those would be my choices. All right, we can wrap it up because Phil doesn't want to play along on that one. So
I'm not cooking dinner. I'm just not.
Well, you could cook
I
breakfast.
Cook dinner
You
at
just
home.
said you make breakfast. Where would you want to cook breakfast?
In whatever toaster was closest, so I can make some Pop-Tarts and bagels. It just is not. I like the idea of it. I think if we were to do, and I've talked about this with Gary and Mike before, if we were to get my family and Gary's family together, and Mike and Kristen were to come up, and we had a grand villa, and we could spend like a holiday and have a prime rib and do it up, but it would need to be a grand villa. I'm not coming back to the hotel room to make an order and cook dinner knowing there's so much good dining elsewhere. I cook dinner at home 6 nights a week. I'm not doing it on vacation. It just does not factor in for me. And I get that other people like doing that and it's worth it and they love it. It's not my gig.
All right, then.
Okay.
All right, folks. Thank you as always for playing along. I can't wait to see the feedback on this one. If any of you could run on over to the Facebook page and vote Riviera out of the lead, I would very much appreciate it, and my faith would be restored in humanity. In the meantime, head on over to Apple, give us a like, a 5-star review. We'd appreciate it. Amy?
And on the Facebook group, I don't know, I'm being distracted by Kathleen laughing.
I haven't changed my vote yet.
Head on over to Facebook and join us on DVC Clubhouse. You can let us know there what your choices are. We've got some tiebreakers posted on the page. You can also find us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And until next time, we'll DVC you real soon.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
And so our journey comes to an end.
Oh, no, please, can't we go back to page 1 and do it all over again?
We started this thing together, and that's how we'll finish it.
Because that, my friends, is where the magic lives.
Happily ever